Welcome to Bookmas. Today is the last book haul of 2024. And almost all of these are from the library or they were bought used. And there are some new ones, but they are, in general, I got them very cheap. Not cheap, inexpensive. So, while the stack is large, it wasn't a lot of money cash-wise. So, okay, there, I will put timestamps in, and yeah. Okay, so the first, one more thing. Dave and I have gotten to the point where we don't generally exchange gifts, Christmas, birthday, anniversary. If one of us wants or needs something, we generally get it. So there isn't going to be a plethora of books hidden underneath the tree unless he's gone shopping that I am unaware of. And the chances of that is non-existent. So these are aka my Christmas gifts. Okay, with that said, let's do the first section, which is fantasy. And there is a whopping one book in this section, and I just picked it up from the library bookshop. I know nothing about it. I know nothing about this author, but it looked interesting. That is Riverkeep by Martin Stewart, and this is someone's advanced reader's copy. And what little I know is from the back. There's a little bit of damage to the back cover, but it's not bad. I will read you the blurb on the back. A wild river, deep and unexplored. A monstrous sea beast, newly awakened. A teenage boy, desperate to save his father. A journey infused with magic and danger. An unforgettable debut. So, that is all I know. And we will see how I get on with it. It was released in late 2015. So hopefully it is not too nonsense filled. So it was actually published in 2016. We shall see. Okay, that is the sole fantasy book for this section. Next up, these kind of go together, so I'm going to lump these three in one, but they are all very not related to one another, so I'm going to call this category miscellaneous. First up would be Dirty Lazy Keto. I thought this was the cookbook. It's not. It's the nonfiction, but it had some good cheat charts in it. I got it used off Amazon, or not Amazon, Walmart. So it has been helpful. And yeah, it sits within easy reach in the kitchen. Particularly helpful has been the grocery list, and it lists the net carbs for a lot of ingredients, from drinks through miscellaneous, like gum or popsicles, or one of my husband's favorite treats, pork rinds. And, low carb tortillas come to miscellaneous, which if I'm going to have a tortilla, I'm having a tortilla proper because low carb tortillas are horrific. So this has been helpful. You've seen this before, but that is How Da Vinci Can Save Your Life by Rod Dreher. It is part of his backlist. I am reading this in conjunction with Dante's Divine Comedy, and I will confess that I'm currently behind on that, and I need to catch up before the end of the year. And let's see, is there a description for this one? I don't believe there is. But it starts off with personal details. And it covers, chapter 2 is Inferno, or Why You Are Broken. And part 3, where is it? I just saw it. Is Purgatorio, or How to Be Healed. And part 4 is Paradiso, or How Things Ought to Be. So, unsurprisingly, Inferno is the biggest section. This, like everything he's written that I've read, is very well written. Okay, and last up is the compendium bind up of C.S. Lewis signature classics. Believe it or not, the bind up of all 8 of them was half price of the box set of individual books and a fraction of the cost of buying the books individually. And I started reading what did I start reading? Mere Christianity from my library, one of the digital apps, and it was too impactful to not annotate, so I had to pick up a copy so that I could annotate as I went, and thus that one. Okay, next up, let's do contemporary. Okay, contemporary is not a huge portion of this haul, to the surprise of no one who's been watching or will be watching the Bookmas videos. So first up is Julie McLean's The Color of Hope. This is the second book in this series, and I do not know the name of the series. I know the first book was one of those hidden on my Kindle, and I believe it was The Color of Heaven. So there's a little bit of water damage on the cover. Other than that, the book was in, fantastic condition. And I'll read you the back of this one. Diana Moore has led a charmed life. She is the daughter of a wealthy senator and living a glamorous city life, and is confident her handsome live-in boyfriend is about to propose. But everything is turned upside down when she learns a mysterious woman who works nearby, a woman who is her identical mirror image. Diana is compelled to discover the truth about this woman's identity, but the truth leads her down a path of secrets, betrayals, and shocking discoveries about her past. These discoveries follow her like a shadow. Then she meets Dr. Jacob Peterson, a brilliant cardiac surgeon with an uncanny ability to heal those who are broken. With his help, Diana embarks upon a journey to restore her belief in the human spirit and recover a sense of hope that happiness and love may still be within reach for those willing to believe in second chances. I think it sounds fantastic. I think it has a beautiful cover, so it was worth a try. Okay. And the rest of these, although this may be I'm trying to see if this one is historical fiction. I'm going to classify it as contemporary, even though it's 1986. That is The Hotel at the Corner of Bitter and Sweet by Jamie Ford. Now, I've been looking at this book for several years, and I saw a copy when I went to the library last time, and I picked it up, and then I continued to look, and there were 2 more copies in the shop. So I picked up the best copy of the 3, and yeah, there's just something about that cover that screams read me to me. So it's set in 1968 or 1986, the year I graduated high school. Oh, it's dual timeline. There's 1942 too. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. We shall see. Okay, next up, Faith Bass Darling's Last Garage Sale by Linda Rutledge. Last year, I read my first and only Linda Rutledge book to date. That was West with Giraffes. And I just think this one sounds like so much fun. On the last day of the millennium, sassy Faith Bass Darling, the richest old lady in Bass, Texas, decides to have a garage sale. With the help from a couple of neighborhood boys, Faith lugs her priceless Louis XV elephant clock, countless Tiffany lamps, and everything else in her 19th century mansion out onto her long, sloping lawn. Why is a recluse of 20 years suddenly selling off her dearest possessions? Because God told her to. As the townspeople grab up 5 generations of heirlooms, everyone drawn to the sale, including Faith's long-lost daughter, finds that the antiques are not only hold family secrets, but also inspire some of life's most imponderable questions. Do our possessions possess us? What are we without our memories? Is there life after death, or second chances here on earth? And is Faith really selling that Tiffany lamp for $1? I have to know. I have to know. Like I said, I've read one other book by her. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. So, always time for a second chance. Okay. And the last contemporary book in this pile, and for some reason, I always think this author is much older than she is. And I was surprised to learn that when I flipped through this book when I got home, that this book was published in 2010 and originally published in 2006 under a different title. So the original title was Can't Wait to Get to Heaven, and this is Fanny Flagg's I Still Dream About You. And I am not a big city girl, but I love this cover. And I doubt it's a huge city, but, or does it say Birmingham, Alabama? This is a comic mystery romp through the streets of Birmingham, Alabama, past, present, and future. Thought I'd give it a go. Okay, that is the giant contemporary section. And so let's move on to historical fiction. First up, and I thought when I picked this up and brought it home, it matched the other 3 books cover-wise that I have gotten from my library's bookshop. It does not have the same cover. So while that's incredibly irritating, it does let me pick up the first book and the 6th book, which would complete the series for me in whichever cover presents itself. So, And that is the Earth's Children series by Jean M. All, and this is Shelters of Stone. And this one came out in 2002. So I very much need to pick up the first and the sixth book, and then the series will be complete, and I can finally read it to completion, which is what I am looking for. But, finding that the first and the last book has so far been a challenge. Okay. And then there was a perfect condition, Kate Morton. This is The Distant Hours. And yeah, I love the end pages. So I am pleased. I really like the cover of this one. And, at some point in 2025, I'm going to read a Kate Morton book. This one was published in 2010. And then we have the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this novel. And there was a copy at the library bookshop. It's in perfect condition. Couldn't pass it up. So it is now mine, awaiting to be read. Looks like the chapters are short. That's always good. I like the fact that while not numbered, they all have chapter names, which is something I truly appreciate. So, okay, those are all the hardbacks. Now for the paperbacks for historical fiction. First up would be Kate Quinn, yet another author I have picked up 2 books from the library bookshop, haven't read yet. This is Diamond Eye. This one is, I believe, based on a true story. Yep. World War II tale of a quiet bookworm who becomes history's deadliest female sniper. Based on a true story. Based on a true story, The Diamond Eye is a haunting novel of heroism born of desperation, of a mother who became a soldier, and of a woman who found her place in the world and changed the course of history forever. And once again, it's in perfect condition, deckled edges and all. So, and this one has a little bit of cover damage, but that's okay. This is My Dear Hamilton by Stephanie Dray and Laura Kamoe. And I couldn't leave it there. It had to come home with me. I will read you the inside. A general's daughter, coming of age on the perilous frontier of revolutionary New York, Elizabeth Schuyler champions the fight for independence. And when she meets Alexander Hamilton, General George Washington's penniless but passionate aide-de-camp, she is captivated by the young officer's charisma and brilliance. They fall in love, despite Hamilton's bastard birth and the uncertainties of war. A founding father's wife. But the union they create in their marriage and the new nation is far from perfect. From the glittering inaugural balls to the bloody street riots, the Hamiltons are at the center of it all, including the political treachery of America's first sex scandal, which forces Eliza to struggle through heartbreak and betrayal to find forgiveness. The last surviving light of the revolution. When a duel destroys Eliza's hard-won peace, the grieving widow fights her husband's enemies to preserve Alexander's legacy. But long-buried secrets threaten everything Eliza believes about her marriage and her own legacy. Questioning her tireless devotion to the man and country that have broken her heart, she's left with one last battle. To understand the flawed man she married and the imperfect union he could never have created without her. Tell me that does not sound like a Tammy book, right? Okay. Next up is Meet Me in Monaco by Hazel Gaynor and Heather Webb. This is a novel of Grace Kelly's Royal Wedding. Now, I have just completed a book by this writing duo. This one is semi-epistolary, but it's much more prose-based, like the one I just finished, which was Christmas with the Queen, and I wasn't a huge fan of that one, but I think Grace Kelly is fascinating, so we shall see. It was on the take me home cart for $1, so I took it home. Okay, and last up is the book I am super excited about, and when I ordered it, didn't realize that it is the companion to another of his novels, and I don't own that one yet. I need to get a copy of that novel very badly. And the companion, the book this is a companion to is Sarum, and I need to order it. I got this one used through Amazon. It's in perfect condition, and that is The Forest by Edward Rutherford. And I will read you the back of this one. The Forest is the companion volume to Edward Rutherford's masterwork Sarum, and its setting in the surrounding area of that novel. From the time of the Norman conquest to the present day, the New Forest, along England's southern coast, has remained an almost mythical place. It is here that the Saxon and Norman kings rode forth with their hunting parties, and where William the Conqueror's son, Rufus, was mysteriously killed. The mighty oaks of the forest were used to build ships for Admiral Nelson's navy, and the fishermen who lived in Christchurch and Lymington helped Sir Francis Drake fight off the Spanish Armada. The New Forest is the perfect backdrop for the families who people this epic story. The feuds, wars, loyalties, and passions of many hundreds of years reach their climax in a crime that shatters the decorous society of Bath in the days of Jane Austen, whose family lived on the edge of the forest. Edward Rutherford is a master storyteller whose sense of place and character, both fiction and historical, is at its most vibrant in the forest. So there are 8 sections. Okay, 9, but one of them is very small. And I am reading one section a month through August of next year. And once I acquire Sarum, I will read it in connection with this. So, okay. Next up, science fiction. Whew. With the exception of one book, they are all from the library. And the one book is brand new, and that is Exodus by Peter F. Hamilton, The Archimedes Engine. This is the first book of a duology related to the upcoming video game Exodus. This one is a chonker. And I'm very interested in this book and in this game. The game looks beautiful. So, backstory. It's my introduction to Peter F. Hamilton's writing. It just came out in September. So, yeah. I know there's time travel in here. So, we shall see. 40,000 years ago, humanity fled a dying Earth. Traveling in massive arc ships, these brave pioneers spread out across the galaxy to find a new home. After traveling thousands of light years, one fleet of arc ships arrived at Centauri, a dense cluster of stars with a vast array of potentially habitable planets. The survivors of Earth signaled to the remaining arc ships that humanity had finally found the new home among the stars. I don't want to know anything else. I want to go in fairly blind. So, yeah. Nice, big, thick, chunky book. Okay. The next is probably the most controversial book I've picked up. I've heard very good things about this book. I've heard very bad things about this book. Thus, you know me, I need to know. And that is The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. And this was published in 2019. And it may be filled with nonsense. I don't know. I've heard it's great. I've heard it's awful. I've heard everything in between. And if you know me as a reader, you know I need to know for myself. Got it from Library Bookshop. So if it's horrible, it can just go back to Library Bookshop and somebody else can see if it works for them. And next up is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. And this was picked up from the library specifically because it fits a year in the Read My Life Challenge, which you may or may not know anything about at the time this video comes out. But it was published in 2014. And okay, so published in 2014. It's not very thick. It's 333 pages. And it sounds very interesting, so yeah. I'm interested. Very, very interested. Next up is another library find, Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. Another one of those books. I have not read anything by this author. I've heard fabulous things about this. It's in perfect condition. I picked it up for $1. And yeah. Again, it's another one that I am very interested in, but it also fits the Read My Life Challenge because it was published in 1992. And I've heard he writes hard science fiction, much like Peter Hamilton. So, and it's, 560 pages. Last science fiction, although it doesn't really fit science fiction, it's more of a classic. Yeah, I'm just going to put it in the classic section, so I'll save that for the next section. Okay, last two sections. So first, let's do classics. By far the largest section. And almost everything in the last timestamp could fit, with the exception of one book, would fit in the classic section as well, but I'm breaking them out on their own. So let's do new first, or rather, non-library acquired first. This one is, I got used from Walmart, is specifically designed to fulfill a prompt in Anne's reading challenge for memoirs. not something I read often, and everything that interested me was not actually a memoir. It was a biography. So when this came up and it wasn't overly long and it was in perfect condition, I snatched it up. That is A Movable Feast by Hemingway. And this is, I'll read you the back. Published posthumously in 1964, A Movable Feast, Ernest Hemingway's classic memoir of Paris in the 1920s, remains one of his most beloved works. Since Hemingway's personal papers were released in 1979, scholars have examined and debated the changes made to the text before publication. Now, this new special restored edition presents the original manuscript as the author intended it to be published. This volume features a personal foreword by Patrick Hemingway, Ernest's sole surviving son, and an introduction by the editor and grandson of the author, Sean Hemingway. Also included are a number of unfinished, never-before-published sketches revealing experiences that Hemingway had with his son Jack, his first wife Hadley, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Ford Madox Ford, as well as insightful recollections of his own early experiments with his craft. This restored edition brilliantly evokes the exuberant mood of Paris after World War I and the unbridled creativity and unquenchable enthusiasm that Hemingway himself epitomized. It is relatively short. It is 236 pages, and it meets Am's prompt perfectly. And Hemingway was just a character. So you will be hearing more about this next year, undoubtedly. Okay. So the rest of these are all new, and they are in no particular order. And some of these appear in my intellectual curiosity video for the 12 Days of Christmas too. So first up would be The Warden by Anthony Trollope, and this is the first of the 6 books of the Barchester series, and this is an Oxford World Classic, and this also contains, what is this? The Two Heroines of Plumplington, which is the short story Trollope added just before his death to provide a final episode in the Annals of Barchester. So I've never read Trollope. I've heard that Barchester is interesting. So this is a very short classic. It's 169 pages. It'll let me know if I like Trollope as an author, and it's a good introduction. The nice thing about Oxford World Classics is that the text is uninterrupted, yes, it's upside down, by annotations, footnotes, explanations. And in the front of every book, there is a, what do they call it? Chronology of the author. So this is the author's life, and this is what is going on this is the author's life, and this is what's going on in the author's home country at the time, or the world, for context. And I greatly appreciate that. It is set before the actual text of the book, so if you need to refer back to events, there is a chronology that is easy to locate and find, and I am appreciative of that. So that is the first Trollope book. Next up is Dickens, The Pickwick Papers. A, I love this cover, and B, there are some illustrations in here. Not a lot, but there's some. And it's a big old chunky, but it's, floppy. We love us a good floppy book. And it is, not counting appendices, 719 pages itself, and there are multiple appendixes and explanatory notes at the end, which, relate to the page number, so you can easily find, if you need to look something up in the back. But otherwise, it follows the Oxford model completely. And then we have Evelina by Frances Burney. I've recently talked about this in my epistolary recommendation for the epistolary January, so I'm not going to talk about it here again, but there you go. And I talk about this book extensively in the upcoming books that sparked my intellectual, books that sparked my intellectual curiosity video for the 12 Days of Christmas. That would be The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. I need to know why Jane Austen was so savage in her satire for this book. And I have been warned by Anne that it's probably not going to be my cup of tea. And when I read you the back, you'll understand why. Quote. This is a quote from the text. Her present life appeared like the dream of a distempered imagination, or like one of those frightful fictions in which the wild genius of poets sometimes delighted. Reflection brought only regret, and anticipation terror. Such is the state of mind of Anne Radcliffe's orphan heroine, Emily St. Aubert, who finds herself imprisoned in her evil guardian, Count Montoni's gloomy medieval fortress in the remote Apennines. Terror is order of the day inside the walls of Udolpho, as Emily struggles against Montoni's rapacious schemes and the threat of her own psychological disintegration. A bestseller in its day and a potent influence on Sade, Poe, and other writers, The Mystery of Udolpho, 1794, is Radcliffe's classic work of Gothic fiction. With its dreamlike plot and hallucinatory rendering of its characters' psychological states, the novel remains a profound and fascinating challenge to modern readers. Yeah, you know what gets me? The hallucinatory rendering of its characters' psychological states. What? I have to know. I just have to know what that could possibly have to do with anything. Okay. The next two are Wordsworth classics with gorgeous covers, and these are currently, or they have been for the last 2 months. The prices are going up a little bit. Have been incredibly cheap, like incredibly inexpensive, and I probably should have snuck a couple of more into my book buying because they're gorgeous and they're inexpensive and they're well printed and appropriately floppy. So first up would be Don Quixote by Cervantes, and what is Don Quixote without a windmill and his donkey on the back? And there are illustrations in this one. I just saw one as it flipped by it really quickly, and now of course I can't come across it. And Wordsworth does not have there's an illustration. Large amount of footnotes, if any, at the end of where needed, which I appreciate. In fact, this is the first book in which I've ever seen a footnote for a Wordsworth classic. Usually the notes are in the back. And when I picked up this copy of Don Quixote, which is gorgeous and floppy and, yes, the print is tiny, but it's not super tiny. I got it for $6. I know. And the other Wordsworth classic in this section is Moby Dick by Melville. Again, gorgeous cover. His fluke on the back. And I did not read this in high school. I didn't take a lot of American Lit in college, so I didn't read it there. And multiple times this year, this book has come up as being unreadable and beyond boring and irrelevant. And that does not jive with what I know about the book. So I need to know why that, what's driving that commentary. Okay, so next up are all the library finds. Okay, this one gets lumped in with science fiction often. I don't know why. And that is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. I love Bradbury's writing. This is for sure on deck for October. It is spooky season appropriate. And this one was written in 1962. So before I was born. So I can't use it for that, but this is a perfect copy. This is, as I recall, a special re-release version. It was in perfect condition. It was $1. I wasn't going to leave it there. Okay, you've seen this one before because it's so pretty. I had to post it on Instagram. This is one of those, I'm incredibly leery about buying them, especially brand new. I've had a bad experience this year. This is an independently published. It's an odd size. I know Anne has one of those odd size books too, and that is The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. It's a gorgeous cover, but here's the size of a normal book. Yeah, it's almost the size of a magazine. And this entire novel takes 167 pages in this format. And while this independently published book is a much better published book than my earlier experience this year, I'm still very, very leery. But I got this one for $1. It doesn't even list who the publisher is. It doesn't have... Oh, this one does have an Ibsen number. I do know that this was published in Coppell, Texas on the 2nd of February, 2021. That is not when the book was written, but there is no identifying information about when the book was written. There is no summary. So, there are no notes, there are no nothing. It's come off of copyright, and they can just be published at will. So, okay. And now for my beautiful collection of hardbacks. I will save the impressive ones for last. First up would be Summer by Edith Wharton. This is a Barnes & Noble classic, the old style hardback. And if you can find a copy of Summer, it is ridiculously expensive. And it is 216 pages. And this edition, which was published in 1995. So, this is this brilliant evocation of a season in the life of a restless small-town girl is one of only two quote-unquote country novels by Edith Wharton, who is best known for her insightful portrayals of urban high society in both America and Europe. 18-year-old Charity Royale feels trapped in her existence in the decaying town of North Dormer, living alone in the stifling company of a much older guardian and under the shadow of a mysterious personal past. One summer afternoon, a charming young architect named Lucius Harney walks into the library where she works and sets off a chain of events that changes her life forever. So, I need to know. Okay. Next up would be Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. And this is a Nelson Doubleday. So this one was published a while ago. Published so long ago, it does not have an Ibsen number. And no publication information other than the publisher's name on the title page. Yeah, it's got deckled edges. It was in perfect condition. I wasn't going to leave it there. Got it for a fraction of the cost of buying it elsewhere. Okay, this is one. Next up is one of the. What do they call this? 100 Greatest Novels? Greatest Historical Novels. This is A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain. And again, perfect condition, leather-bound book, $3. And the single most expensive book I have ever purchased at the library. And I saw it. I almost grabbed it. And then I didn't. Went home and did some research. Found out it's actually sells for a lot more than I was going to buy it for. So I picked it up. And it is one of the 100 greatest books ever written. It is part of the Easton Press collection of the 100 greatest books ever written. That is Tess of the Dubervilles by Thomas Hardy. It is in perfect condition. Again, leather bound, gilded edges, ribbon. And I do remember there are illustrations in it too. This coming up in college, and I believe I took a different course because I had tried to read it before and couldn't get through it, but I am a different person than I was way back when I was 20 something or 18, and I want to try again. And this book was definitely one of those investment type purchases, so I grabbed it. Okay, last section, and that would be the Catholic fiction section. And these are all new. Only one of them was a full price, however. The rest of them were quote-unquote steals. And, okay, let's talk about the full price first. That is Misshelved Magic by S.R. Crickard. It is the first book in the Liminal Library series. This just came out. It is the first book in the series. I love the cover. I love the cover. And I'll read you the back of this one. Adelina is content to be a humble librarian with no magic, organizing ordinary books and leaving the magical section of the library to the management of the mysterious creature called a Savara, until she finds a misshelved spell book that refuses to stay in its proper pace. Despite warnings from the College of Magic and her superiors, she decides to return the book to the magical section, where she befriends the mysterious creature. Contrary to what she's been told, the Savara is trying to protect humanity from dangerous magic by hoarding it in the library. But is it also hiding an even greater danger? Leon is a mage in his final year at the college who needs to write something impressive for his final thesis. But when he meets the charming Adeline and she confides her discovery to him, Leon's world turns upside down. He's forced to try to mediate between the mysterious creature and the power-hungry magi who surround him, all while trying to pursue his favorite librarian. Can Adelina and Leon protect the Savara from the world, and the world from the dangers of the library? Or will both sides be destroyed by the secrets they hide and the greed that drives them to seek forbidden knowledge? And I think it sounds fantastic. It is very short at 305 pages. Although I will say that it's 305 pages, but the print is exceedingly tiny. I am so looking forward to this book. I've been holding myself back from reading it until I got this video out. So, okay. The rest of these are all classics, and I'm going to do the one I am not reading throughout the year first, and that would be the 75th anniversary edition of Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. First of all, I love this cover. It's gorgeous. I love the peacocks on the back. Don't ask me why I haven't read this. I haven't seen the miniseries either, which I will watch after I read this. Yeah. This book and the next two you will see again during the 12 Days of Christmas. So, I believe I talk about this book extensively there. So, okay. And the next two I am reading throughout the year because they are a compilation of short stories. And the first up is The Complete Father Brown Stories by G.K. Chesterton. And this is also a Wordsworth classic. There's Father Brown's bicycle. And there's his bumper shoot on the back cover. And this, when I bought it from Walmart, was $4.95. It's a big, thick chunker. It's all of the Father Brown stories. So it would have been a mistake to not purchase it. And it is divided into 5 sections. And the 5 sections are The Innocence of Father Brown, The Wisdom of Father Brown, The Incredulity of Father Brown, The Secret of Father Brown, and The Scandal of Father Brown. And there are short stories, none of which are greater than 50 pages in each of those sections. So I'm just, over the course of 2025, I'm going to read the complete book. And I'm not going to force myself to try to read it in a month or 2 months or whatever. I'm just going to pick it up, read some short stories, put it down, pick it up, read it, It'll go nicely that way. Okay, last up. Never heard of this author. Certainly didn't know she was Catholic. And the book was an absolute steal on Walmart. For under $8, I got the complete stories of Flannery O'Connor. Cover is gorgeous. I knew nothing about her. And I know I talk more about Flannery in my upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. I do know that there are 31 short stories in here. That is roughly 2 Flannery stories a month. A couple months are going to have to be 3 stories or so. But again, they're short. They're all under 50 pages, if that. So it isn't, inconceivable to do that in a sitting or two for, if I'm doing 3 stories a month or whatever. So stay tuned for more discussion of Flannery in the upcoming genre video. Okay. So that is the last book haul for 2024. 2025 is probably going to be mostly classics and Catholic fiction. Or I'm going to be rounding out series I already have that I'm missing, some books on, for instance, like the Earth's Children series or the Expanse series where I'm missing books. So that is the plan. I want to read my shelves. I want to, make headway with what I own. Santa leave you anything wonderful under the tree? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.